One person is controlling the agenda of the United States of America right now, and his name is Grover Norquist.
Norquist is a feared lobbyist and head of Americans for Tax Reform. He's gotten the majority of Congress to sign an oath stating that they will not raise taxes under any circumstances, ever.
Try to get 95% of politicians to agree on anything. Go ahead, we dare you. Our next guest did just that with his taxpayer protection pledge prior to the 2012 election. And in light of these midterm results, rest assured he'll be holding more feet to collective fires inside the Beltway. Let's welcome to MidPoint, founder and president of Americans for Tax Reform, one of the most respected and sometimes feared men on the Hill, and who also counts a Janis Joplin lunchbox as a prized possession. I gotta love that. Yes. Grover Norquist joins us on the show. Grover, thanks for being here today.
I'm delighted to be with you, yes.
Let me go ahead and get to that point that we had, that soundbite we had coming in. You are controlling the agenda of the United States. Grover, are you indeed that powerful, and how does it feel to have all that power behind you?
Well, in point of fact, the tax issue is the most powerful issue in the United States throughout American history. It's how we got founded with the Tea Party. At every point in American history, the tax issue has been decisive in terms of moving the American electorate. So it's quite true that the Taxpayer Protection Pledge, which lets voters know who will raise their taxes and who won't, and it makes that commitment public and in writing and immovable in a way that you can't use any weasel words to say, I meant to say something else. If you take the pledge, everyone knows exactly what you meant. That's good to help you get elected, and it's also good to keep you on the straight and narrow. People tend not to break the pledge. George Herbert Walker Bush broke it, threw away a perfectly good presidency, and that's when everybody learned, take the pledge, get elected, break the pledge, lose. If you plan on raising taxes, you don't take the pledge. If you know you won't, because for reasons of principle, you then take the pledge because it's an easy way to communicate with millions of voters. So the issue is a powerful one. My role is just holding up a mirror to let the American people see where elected officials and candidates really stand.
Grover, is the reality then that we still have too many weasels inside the Beltway who simply aren't willing to stick to their guns, and that's the biggest problem? They weasel out of everything?
Well, I mean, there are some who come to Washington over time and grow in office, as they say. That is so much less a problem than when I came to Washington many years ago. The Republican Party has become a united Reagan Republican Party. Not a single Republican voted for Obamacare. You go back to previous increases in the welfare state, the entitlement state, and many Republicans voted for them. And the ones who didn't vote for them a year after they got passed said, well, that's fixed and we don't change it. Every single Republican voted against Obamacare, and every single Republican elected is committed to repealing and replacing it as soon as possible. So it's a much improved Republican Party in the House and the Senate. We have a long way to go in state legislatures. There you have some governors and some legislators who never got the memo that we're the Reagan Republican Party.
Why have they not gotten that memo, and what's it going to take to push them over the edge at that point to actually get it and go forward?
Sure. Well, in a state like Kansas, where they're Lincoln Republicans, meaning the reason they were Republicans was they were north of the Mason-Dixon line during the Civil War. And if you ask them 5-6 years ago, were you on taxes or tort reform or labor law, they would ask, why are you bringing that up? I'm a Republican. It was just an identifier, the way some conservatives were Democrats in the South for 100 years after the Civil War, reacting to Sherman being unpleasant to Atlanta recently. We are now have sorted the country out so that Republicans, in most elected cases, are Reagan Republicans. But how do you get there? The governor of Kansas, toughest guy in the country, primaried 13 sitting state senators of his own party, Republicans, 2 years ago, defeated them, replaced all but 2 of them with Reagan Republicans. So this is a guy who took on more than a quarter of the 40-person legislature, beat 11 out of 13, and turned the Senate, as well as the House, into a Reagan Republican legislature. That needs to happen in some more states. Governors and the Chamber of Commerce helped and led the fight against rhinos, Republicans in name only, in Kansas. I mean, very, very impressive. I want a party with the Chamber of Commerce that's willing to be that gutsy. They aren't all that gutsy.
Grover, a couple minutes we got left then. Your contract for America, with America, I should say, was a 10-bill document, and this was Republicans campaigned on en route back in 1994. If indeed there was a 2014 contract with America, how should it change, and what need to be those immediate action items when this Congress gets into place that they cannot waver on and must push forward as vociferously as they can?
Sure. Yeah, the thing to remember about the contract with America that Gingrich and the Republicans in the House put together was that it was a commitment to hold votes on 10 issues. It wasn't a commitment to pass them, because we didn't know what the Senate was going to look like. We didn't know whether the president would veto these things. But they said we're going to have votes, and everybody's going to have to say aye or nay on each of these 10. And that they were able to do. They actually passed about 7 of them and got them signed into law, but they had votes on all 10 in the House. The Republicans in the House and the Senate can now say we're going to have votes on repealing Obamacare, replacing Obamacare with consumer-friendly, bottom-up health care, not top-down, bureaucratized, government-run health care. And then there are about 46 votes to expand economic growth, to create jobs, that have been passed in the House, often with bipartisan support. Those will now be voted on in the Senate. And the president can either veto them or the Democrats could filibuster them. But we are going to have dozens and hundreds of votes in the House and the Senate when we go into 2016 and 2018 and 2020 House and Senate races. We'll be able to separate out those Democrats who actually do vote their districts and how many just slavishly follow the Democratic Party and do what Obama tells them to. And when we have a presidential election, we'll have a series of votes on economic growth, on tort reform, on spending restraint, on entitlement reform, and the Republicans will be on one side and most Democrats will be on another. It will clarify what's going on.
I only have 10 seconds left. Should you be feared, Grover?
The tax issue should be respected.
There you go. That'll be the right answer there, and that'll be the end answer for us at this moment. Grover Norquist, pleasure to have you on the show. We'll look forward to the next time.
Good.
All right. Ever wonder what the real cost of immigration amnesty will be to the American taxpayer? That breakdown after a short pause right here on MidPoint.